Yeah, so we got to the point where moving day happens early.
Yes.
Before we go any further, I do need to ask you, do need you to step outside of yourself for a moment, but stay within yourself, and just imagine
I'll try.
that you are behind a two-way mirror,
Right, okay.
looking through it, with a gentleman next to you, with a notepad. He's just turned to you and said, "Well then, Mr. Terry, can you identify your assailant from the liner?"
What? Right.
I'm just going to leave that with you for a moment.
I'll give it some thought.
Would you like a cuppa? Sorry, there's just something that occurred to me while I went off on a tangent. But not enough of a tangent for an alert.
Not alert.
Yes, so movie day has happened early.
Movie day, yes, happening early.
Auntie Shrew does her thing, bang, 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 and
Yeah.
the rabbits, all the other rabbits run off. Obviously, Fiver can't because Hazel's in bed and can't leave.
Yeah.
As we kind of touched on earlier, how does this scene play?
Isn't it Mrs. Shrew that does most of the damage to the tractor?
Yes, because Mrs. Brisby gets up so high, and then a fear of heights overcomes her, and she just clings on.
That's right, yes, of course.
She's definitely the one with the courage to go up there first, because Auntie Shrew follows her.
Yeah.
But obviously gets in above her head very quickly.
So it's a little bit like I was saying earlier on. I think, the tractor's veering close to that big rock in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So Fiver is going to jump up on top of the rock and
then onto the tractor from there.
Yeah. But I imagine it's when he gets pulled into the workings of the tractor that he starts to panic.
Yes.
Like Mrs. Brisby does.
Yeah. Yeah, that works. And so Auntie Shrew's there on hand to finish the job. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it does fairly similar.
Yeah. And again, in some respects, it heightens the tension of that scene, because when she's done the thing and the tractor stops, and obviously in the original film she goes to get hold of Mrs. Brisby to drag her away, she's not going to move Fiver.
No.
It's how does she...
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be...
Yeah.
How does that play out there? So what, do you think maybe it's Fiver's first moment of true strength, maybe? That he pulls himself together at the last second?
No, I still think it should be...
Mrs. Shrew.
That brings him round. It's interesting how she does so.
I don't know. He's
Because you get
he's
more
Mrs.
depth.
Shrew and he's here.
Yeah.
A good slap around the face from her scale probably isn't going to hurt him that bad.
No. I don't know, pulling his tail,
Pulling his whiskers.
pulling his whiskers, something like that. That would do it.
They do. Do they?
I don't think they do.
No, they don't. No,
No, they don't.
I had a rabbit when I was about 6.
I had a
can't
rabbit as
really
well.
remember.
They move their noses a lot, which kind of makes you think of whiskers.
Their whiskers are moving, yeah.
But they don't. No.
Yeah. No.
So because their noses are quite sensitive, so maybe just proper bash
Pop
on the nose. Yeah.
Yeah, pop on the nose, yeah.
That would do it. And then, because obviously as soon as he opens his eyes, she's kind of like,
Wake up. Yeah, a bump on the nose I think would do it, as you say.
And then they can get out in time for Fiver to get off the tractor and notice what's happened. Yeah. Because that would then take us...
I'm trying to remember how it happens, but I do know what happens next. It's the trip into the woods.
And that's going to be difficult.
To see the old owl.
Yeah, it's. I can't remember how she...
I can't remember who said it. Does she go back to see Mr. Ages?
No, because she does, but after she's been to the owl.
That's right, yes. No, she bumps into Mr. Ages when she goes to see the rats, because he's there.
He is there, yes, that's it, and because his legs in the
Who told
cast.
her to go speak to the owl? Oh, damn, I cannot remember.
Yes, because it's...
Because it's not her idea, is it?
No. Nicodemus tries to put the suggestion into her head from where he is in NIMH.
Yeah, when he's watching on his weird screen. Is that how it happens?
I think it is. I think it's just an idea that it's kind of subliminal messaging. He plants the idea in her head and then she just comes out with it.
I don't know why, but I'm sure somebody says, "Oh, only the old owl would know," or something like that. I think I'm getting confused.
I thought that was as well, but at the same time, I think that was it. It was
Nicodemus
just putting the idea in her head.
Yeah.
Which I seem to remember. That's one of the things I seem to remember from the book. I mean, again, I was about to.
I read the book since I was a teenager.
I read the book since I was about 9.
I didn't have it when I was a kid. I didn't get hold of it until I was nearly 20.
No, my brother. I think my brother still got his copy. Very, very dog-eared.
No,
right. I think he's still got his copy from when we were kids.
Oh.
And we also had it. I know it was in the school library as well, because I remember I read my brother's copy, and then I loved it so much. A few months later, I had to go and get the copy out of the library to read it again. But I remember being more engaged by the book. And I think part of it was, and which is why I thought it was a natural one to switch with Watership Down, was there seemed to be more journeys in it. So I think there was more in the book of the journey to go and see the owl.
There's more of an
than there is in the film.
Yeah, the book is more of an adventure.
Yeah.
Whereas the film is for kids, where it's more of a series of events.
Yes.
That Mrs. Frisbee has to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
Brisbee.
You did say Brisbee.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I missed it. That's one for me. Okay, you get 2 off for that one. That was my mistake. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, because she's more proactive in the book.
Yeah.
There's more. It's more.
I know what you're going to say though as well. How big a harness are we going to need to fit Fiver in it for him to fly? The fact is, oh
no, the crow. No, a crow's not going to pick up
a rabbit. I think that because
no. You've got a bigger problem than that coming up. How the hell do you get a rabbit up a tree?
Okay, so the first part, I think we can cheek it by saying that Jeremy accompanies him. Because rabbits can cover distance, we know that they can cover from Watership Down. So it's just, he's not going to try and carry him. You see the distance, it looks quite far when they're flying.
He's the one guiding him to the tree because
she's so small, it makes sense. But a rabbit can cover that distance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that bit's fine. And as you say, Jeremy kind of knows where he is, so he's accompanying him to make sure he gets there. And also for aerial support, I suppose, in case he runs into any trouble.
I might have just solved my own problem. What if the tree's hollow?
So it goes, with the visuals in that film, that would be fantastic, that he goes in at the ground level, and you've got the wood inside.
That could work, maybe. A rabbit might be able to, with like little ledges and perches and things.
I would. So this is a new thing.
Conceivably do that.
So this is a new thing, possibly then to bring in. That's a star moment in our new version that I think is actually that would enhance to the nth degree the original, because that visual of him looking up the tree.
Yeah.
With the animation that's in that film.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Absolutely love it. And it's also that feeling of being in an auditorium. It's that,
space, grandiosity.
Yes. He's in that space. There is an audience up there watching him. And yes, I love it. As an actor, I'm sure you can appreciate it as well. Yeah. It's for somebody who's quite timid, again, it's another step in his evolution as a character.
Yeah, okay. Oh no, I do believe I just solved the problem. Okay.
Which also, interestingly enough, means we slightly changed a later scene, because you kind of have that moment the first time Mrs. Brisbane goes into the rat kind of forum, where the rats are in the bush, where, and again I can't remember the villain's name. The rat villain?
Jenner.
That's it. Yes.
There's a lot of J's.
There is a lot of J's. Yes. So where Jenner is holding court, and that's kind of, you get the impression that you definitely get the sense that that's Mrs. Brisbane's first time in public life.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So we've kind of cheated that scene. Well, we haven't, but
Oh, the sense of grandiosity, the looking
Yes,
up,
and
yeah,
being,
'cause it would be
and
quite
being
the same
observed.
with-
Yes,
yes. Okay, I got you.
but
Yeah.
because of Fiver's character,
And because he has this kind of spiritualism going on as well, he will see deeper meanings in his surroundings.
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
which may again bring on claustrophobia, bring on a little bit on a vision.
I also think it balances the tension. Forgive me, I might be wrong, but owls don't hunt rabbits, do they?
Must admit, it did cross my mind, and I did get time to check, but I don't think so. I think they're too
No, I think they're too big for them, aren't they?
big. Yeah, because it's like voles.
Because
and
they
things.
swallow things whole, don't they?
Yeah, because owls are like things like voles and
So
mice. And,
the tension in the moment comes from the climb rather than the presence of the owl.
yeah.
So you replace what tension would be lost by a mouse being faced by an owl
Yes.
by that. You'd still have the awe of speaking to the owl and the magnificence of him in his eyes.
The glowing eyes, which is yeah.
Yeah, I love that, the glowing eyes. I don't know why, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, literally, in terms of, like, you know, physically, these animals don't have any light in their eyes.
Yeah.
But also, in terms of the story, they're not magical, but their eyes gleams at moments of significance.
Yes.
And I liked it as a narrative thing, that these gleams happen at certain times.
There was something I noticed in the animation, I don't know if it was just, not that there's any fault in the animation, but I don't know if it was just something that they couldn't do, but there's several instances when he's talking to Mrs. Brisby, and the way it's animated, he looks almost like a wraith, and it's like the way it's matched against the background, it's like he's part of the background. And I was trying to figure, is that just a fault in the animation, or is that on purpose?
I believe that's entirely on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because those are very gripping scenes, and I think they were planned deliberately.
That's cool.
Because I know what you mean. Because normally those styles of animation are layers of mattes, stills, and animated cells. But in that moment, he's coming from the background to the foreground fluidly.
Yeah.
It must have been a tremendous animation job, because they would have had to paint the entire background into the foreground sort of thing every time. But that's why I think it must be deliberate, because it must have been such a job for them to do.
Yeah. Again, it works. It works fantastic.
Oh yeah, it does. It does work. You know, because it's just the eyes, and then the outline of the eyebrows, and the outline of the head, and then the outline of the feathered and the shouldered body moving forward, and it just sort of reveals slowly.
I mean, I think with regards to the thing with the eyes, we can just take that as it's just another layer of the mysticism in the film.
Oh, I'm not buying it at all. I love it, but I mean, if you think about it logically, it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
There's no supernatural reason for the glow, and there's no natural reason for the glow. It's just a poetic moment in the story, so their eyes gleam or glow, and I like that, because it's a way of foreshadowing in animation that's not available to other types of filmmaking.
Yes.
I think there are moments, very occasionally, a director will catch a gleam in an actor's eye that is very similar to that, but it's never quite the same thing. But the exaggeration, the overpronunciation, it's a bit like anime.
Things are exaggerated for a reason.
For a reason,
to
yes.
Be significant.
Yes, because that is also part of the story.
This moment matters.
Yes.
This look matters. This action
It's
matters.
not just plot. It's
a
visuals
signal
as
to
well.
the audience. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense narratively, but as a signal to the audience, it's brilliant.
And again, that's quite nice as well. I like the idea of him coming in at the ground level and having to sort of work his way up.
Yeah.
Because we can use that as his moment of tension to replace the owl stepping on the spider.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
You know, because an owl's not that threatening to a rabbit. That climb would be.
Yes. And also
it creates the tension of the scene just in a slightly different way.
And also, obviously, a rabbit's not going to be afraid of a spider.
Yes, of course. Yes,
So-
also that. Yeah.
So yes,
no matter how big.
Well, a tarantula possibly.
I was going to say maybe if you were in South America, but we're
not
pretty sure we're not in South America.
Exactly.
So that works quite well, and that replaces that. And then again, that scene itself would play out as it does.
Yeah, very
the
much.
owl's telling him to
You
go
know,
and see the rats.
including move your home. I cannot help you further, and then the reveal of the name.
Yeah.
So I suppose Fiver and Hazel have to have a family name, which they don't have in Watership Down.
No, they don't.
Would it be Brisby, or would we give them a different name because they're rabbit brothers?
There's nothing in Brisby or Fishby that seems to scream mouse, so it's not like it's
Fair point,
connected.
yeah.
So it could be, and it fits with the story.
Cool. So same name.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just happen to know their last name, which we don't in Watership Down.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. So from there, it's back home, which again, because that's the other thing with this, with Secret
Was it
of...
straight back home? Because he said he told her to go to the rats.
Oh, yeah, well, this is what
Oh, no, she had to find out where the rats were.
No, she knew where the rats were. It is mentioned. But, because she knows that they're in the bush.
I
She's just
remember
never
why
been
she
there.
told Jeremy to look after the kids while she
Yes.
was in the woods.
No, that was when she went into the bush itself. Get rid of it. No, my point was going to be...
Oh, yes, go and collect all the string.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, she knows where he is,
Yes.
or where the rats are.
No, the thing with Secret of NIMH compared to Watership Down,
Yeah.
there is more.
It is more like
There's more forward motion.
Yeah.
More time.
It's more.
actually-
it's more independent. It's more independent scenes linked together as opposed to a through-line journey, which Watership Down is.
Yeah.
We follow their journey.
Yeah, it's a
Time-
forward. It's a constant forward step.
Yes.
Except when they
Whereas
go back
this,
to the Warren and
whereas
the
this
other
jumps about quite a lot because
Yeah.
it's clearly, it doesn't because when they're in
Yes,
the forest,
home to ages, home to the woods, home to the
Yes.
rats, home.
because you get the impression when they get
Yeah.
to the woods, it's almost dusk. But then the next time we see her is when she's going to visit the rats in the
Yes,
rose bush.
the owl
And-
says, "Forgive me, it is night. I must hunt."
Yes, and then the next time we see her, it's broad daylight. She's going to visit the rats.
That's very true.
So
Yes.
the time does
So it
jump
must
about
be the
a
next
lot.
day. Yes, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I notice it more in Watership because I think the makers signal it more.
Yeah.
They do fade-ins and fade-outs,
To suggest that time has passed.
whereas with NIMH it does cut from scene
Yes.
to scene.
It's more broken like that.
It's like Watership is saying, time has passed to
Yes.
black, and then forward into a new scene.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just these things happen and you have to kind of catch up and figure out how much time has passed.
And so the next scene, as you say,
Because I remember the last time I watched it, one of the things I thought at the end was, why is it taking the farmer so long to fix his engine?
That's true. It takes him a couple of days at least.
Does he not know what's... I don't know. But that's one of the things the story doesn't deal with.
Maybe it was a Sunday the shops weren't open, you couldn't get the parts.
Well, I don't know, because for me, that actually feels like, and again, because it's been so long since I read the book, I don't know if it's in the book or not. It almost feels like it got forgotten by the writers. Because the initial threat has passed, although it will inevitably return, which is why the family has to be moved.
yes,
The actual realistic timeline,
there's
there's no time limit.
his
Once they've
contribution to the
broken
film is
tractor-
finished.
Yeah, and he's just like, you can go to the rest of your trailer now, mate. We'll give you a call if we need you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is interesting. I think it's an oversight by the makers. I don't know if it's the makers of the film or something that comes from the book.
Yeah. I must admit, I can't remember. I would have to reread the book.
Maybe it's because I've read so many Stephen King books and things like that where he talks about a lot of people who come from farming backgrounds and things like that. But these people are always working on their own equipment. They're often proud of being able to fix their own
It could be
equipment.
that, yeah, because I wouldn't have thought of that.
So I would, because, I mean, to be honest, all Mrs. Shrew did was pull out a spark plug and disconnect the fuel line.
If you've got the stuff, it's a 5-minute job.
If you know anything about engines, you can probably fix it in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But the story, that doesn't occur in the story. It is at least several days later by the climax, if not 4 or 5.
Yeah, so it must be then it's simply maybe the shops weren't open, he couldn't get out there or whatever.
But it's an interesting, it just gets dropped by the story. It just doesn't matter.
That
at
is
that
so
point.
true. You're making me want to reread the book. You really are. I'm going to have to actually
borrow
call
it
my
from you
brother
when
and
you
say,
finished.
yeah, I will call. Actually, no, I'll probably borrow it because I know my brother will kind of like.
Oh,
He'll go. He's had that since he was a kid. Understandably, it's it's personal.
There are
It's
certain
personal
things
to him,
I
so
wouldn't lend either.
exactly. So
So we are
Okay,
at
yes,
the rose bush.
Yeah.
And Fiver's trying to get in, which again is going to be a bit of a job because he's a lot bigger than a mouse.
Yes. And it's not just figuring out the opening mechanism, it's squeezing your body into there and not getting cut up and things like that and trying to avoid the cat. So probably a higher tension moment than it is in with Mrs.
which
Dundee,
again-
because
which again-
she's so small she can just sneak
Yeah.
into the roots.
which again will work really well because
Because it will. There's a nice dichotomy between that and the scene that will lead into that, which was the kind of quite light, silly scene with Jeremy.
And the shrew.
and Jeremy and the and when he's wearing the
Oh, one of
woman's
the bloomers
clothes.
or whatever it was,
Yes. So so there's that nice kind of Although, of course, I can't see Fiver batting his eyelids at Jeremy.
Fiver is a little clever.
Yeah.
And I think he would find there would be another way of manipulating him, and he would think of quite quickly. You know, I can't think of what a suitable answer would be off the top of my head.
Yes.
But I think that Fiver would. He is a smart little one.
Yes.
In his own way. And he would
Possibly even again, if you want to go that far,
finding another way of appealing to his ego.
he could even because I think by this stage,
With the way it's working, Jeremy would have found out that he sometimes has visions.
Yes.
So he might fake a vision.
Yes.
Fake a vision.
Yeah, exactly.
That the kids are that Hazel's in trouble. Oh, we've got to go and help him.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You know,
Yeah.
Fiver could easily imagine ways to manipulate.
Which is also
Very.
nice as well because it shows off that some of.
Which again, it relates because they also manipulate Kia.
In similar ways to get him to think of doing things.
Which is what Hazel does. And again, it shows that some of Hazel is in his brother as well. He can manipulate in a very different way, but they've both got that capacity for control and leadership.
Yeah.
And again, as you say, then you go into this quite dark scene because again there is blood in Secret of NIMH.
There is, yes.
Not as much, but there is. They don't shy away from it.
No, they don't. When it comes to it, they don't shy away from it.
So again, that would be quite nice. Again, so you go into this quite dark scene of how he squeezes his way through, which again reinforces the idea of how safe the rats feel in this environment. That's why they don't want to leave it. Because to most things, we're pretty sound. We're clever. We've got weapons. The only thing we really have to worry about is things that are bigger than us, but something like a rabbit is still going to struggle to get into our stronghold.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Which you don't get with the first one because she's so small she can just and she's in. But it does obviously change the scene once he gets inside, when he's being chased by
That's
the Rat Sentry.
The Rat Sentry, who never gets named.
He does get named. He does have a name.
Right.
Yeah.
With the weird electrical speary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, imagine the tension. I mean, and again, Fiver still not being the bravest of bunnies.
Yes.
You know, something like that, especially with the sparks and the explosions when it comes down.
And also,
He'd be
oh my god,
intimidated
actually,
by that so
yes,
easily.
it works. Actually, no, it works perfectly because obviously he's going to be a lot bigger than a rat.
The lights and everything remind him too much like, oh my god, now I am having a vision, which throws him off balance, which then gives the rat the advantage.
And that's what. So he runs because of that, because he thinks that he's in a situation that he can't control. He thinks it's a trigger, and so he runs.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I think I might have been misunderstanding there. I see your point. I'm not sure it's necessary. I think something coming at you with a spear that sparks and jumps would be just because that's what if you think about that sequence. It's one of those things. It doesn't make sense in a lot of ways because in some way the events of that scene drive Miss Frisbee and therefore Fiver to where. To where she needs to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the attacks have no apparent purpose.
No, they don't.
Because they are still outraged when somebody arrives in their chamber. So he clearly didn't do the job he was meant to be doing, or she, or it's whatever.
It's a he. It's definitely a he, and the name will come back to me.
But I do think that I imagine any animal being. You know, electrical sparks and shit.
Yeah. It's going to freak them out. Yes, it's the same way the animals react.
Maybe I am just being contrary.
No, you're not being contrary at all. I think what it is, it's the
It might make sense because you're right. He does have a history of visions,
and that's what it is. It was for me. It was the visuals that accompany that scene, because it's
it's
more
very
than just
stark. Darkness and light and
but there are I seem to remember those colours and stuff around it, and
it's sort of almost a Burton-esque
attitude
to the background where
the
things
shadow
curled and crawled and
exactly, and that's what I thought might make him
like that means anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
It means you've just cut someone.
Didn't mean to know.
That can stay in.
Sorry, but yes, it's just I kind of thought that could have possibly been a trigger for something, or he thinks it's a trigger for something.
And we've seen again in Watership Down itself, until he gets to the point where he becomes almost paralytic and he can't move, he will try and move away from the thing that he thinks is causing the vision.
So,
yes, that's right. Yes.
So his natural
right.
inclination would be to flee. It's a fight or flight thing.
Yes.
And that will then feed into the rat following him. It's like, oh, what's going on here? I know it could be as subtly, even if it's just between us and understand this as writers.
Yeah, so we can
the rat goes,
get flashes
oh,
of his vision and then see it from the rat's point of view
and the rat's
cut
kind of
back and forth with the...
The rat's kind of like, I've bitten off more than I can chew here. Actually, maybe I haven't.
I'll do my thing.
Yeah.
And it's fucking working. What the hell's that all about?
Yeah, no, I could see that working.
Until he gets to the point...
It would be quite nuanced for a children's film, but kids are so much smarter than creators give them credit for anyway.
I would put it in context because I'm assuming that when we are doing these, we are doing them as if they were made by the people who were making them at the time that they were made.
Yeah.
Not with modern sensibilities.
Yeah.
So I would also then, I would bring in the trump card at that point. If I had a deck of cards, I would draw the trump card and I would say...
The standard by which I think in future, especially with things from past decades, the trump card, the standard that we set everything by is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh man, that movie's terrifying.
Exactly. And they got away with that. So I think...
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I didn't think it would be terrifying. I just thought it would be a little bit nuanced for kids.
Yes, but I'm just saying that if we needed
you're right,
to...
You're right.
Yes.
You're right. There's layers and layers.
Because there will be things there that, again, as you know, you'll watch it as a kid, you won't get it, but when you come back to it in 5-10 years' time...
Of course. Yeah. That's what I like a lot about a lot of the animation made in that era. It wasn't catering to a single audience, it was catering to everybody.
And it was catering to everybody at their own level.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, we need to put quite obvious jokes into the adults to get them into it. While in a kid's film.
Yeah.
It's like, there is stuff in this film that kids will enjoy, there's stuff in this thing that adults will enjoy, and there's going to bleed through.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Anyway, slight tangent. Sorry.
That's okay.
So, yes. So that scene does work, and it can work in a different way. And again, yes, we will all, which again adds more depth and longevity to the film, to this new movie as a product, because again, you can always come back to it, which is what we love about these films in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so, I think purely by accident there, we've included something.
It, I think.
Yes. So Fiver gets pushed through and.
Yes, down into the rosebush.
And then meets Mr. Ages.
Yes.
And then that leads through to them meeting Justin.
Of course,
which again leads to some interesting dynamics because Justin's quite alpha and it's a much bigger creature.
Yeah.
But
that would be so funny.
Yeah.
That really would be so funny. I could see, again, a lot more comedy coming from that.
And again, because Fiver's not particularly aggressive.
But there's still that confidence there that I think the rats would still have that confidence because they do have things like weapons and things like that.
Well, that's what I mean. I think you'd have... what's his name? Not Jeremy. Justin.
Yeah? Justin. Oh, sorry, Justin. Yeah, we're going with some there. Okay.
Justin is... he's got the sort of alpha male behaviour. But he'd be intimidated by... Hazel's Fiver's
just because of his size,
and Fiver would be intimidated him because of his bolshiness.
Yes,
and so there'd be this lovely back and forth, two people being intimidated by each other.
Yeah, for completely the wrong reasons. Yeah. That's.
I could see so much comedy coming from that.
Yeah, that would work really well. Which as a replacement for the scene that exists would be excellent. Yeah.
And then obviously again you've got. I mean, I know how they would do it again in the film because they don't. The filmmakers obviously didn't want that to be a thing. It wasn't, but yeah, they wouldn't. I don't think there'd be that much kind of incidental comedy like he can't squeeze through things and things like that.
Oh no, bumping of the head or anything like that. Because I was thinking about that
a little, but possibly. But I don't think it'd be overplayed.
But just that, you know, I'm the biggest of my species and I'm the smallest of my species.
Yes. Yeah.
But we know more than you do, so we are on a level for completely different reasons, which is a wonderful message to be giving to kids.
It does work. Yeah, that's great. That's a good point. I wasn't even thinking of the kid aspect, but yes, you are correct. Yeah. So that takes us to I'd like to think of as the courtroom scene, which is not really a courtroom scene. It's like, what is it, a parliament scene?
It's more like a forum, isn't it? It's like a democracy, isn't it? So
something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously around that again, I know we haven't really touched on it, but all the peripheral scenes that don't feature the main characters would play off as normal.
in this instance. So all the cutaways to
I
the
know why I think of
Nicodemus.
it as a courtroom scene. It's because of the way Jenner acts.
Yes.
Not Jenner, the other one, the fat one that Jenner befriends because he's being all
Oh
bullshit.
yeah, which again I don't think he does have a name, or if he does, it's not said. I don't remember.
No,
I didn't.
but, yeah.
I was looking out for
Because the
names.
first time I watched that, I thought it was Jenner that was making all the accusations, and it was only when I rewatched it recently that I realised it was the little fat rat that
Yes.
was doing all the shouting.
and Jenner
But
being,
Jenner was just standing near
being
him.
the proper politician, going,
Yeah.
Goes, I can use his peasant rage to my advantage.
But the stuff he was shouting made it feel more like a courtroom scene than a discussion.
I say peasant rage, but he's not, because he was just another one of the
That's because he's
councillors.
dressed kind of peasanty.
He is.
There is kind of like a classism.
There
Look at
is.
the way the rats look.
And that was the other thing I noticed, especially when you get into towards the end of the film. It's always there, but it doesn't come in until towards the end. There is that kind of that medieval swashbuckling element to them as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because
And like the more you get into the ratty world, the more medieval it gets.
yes, because the fact that he's when we first meet Justin, he's hiding inside a suit of armour.
Oh, of course he is. Yes, he snuck up on them, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yes.
With that horrible, almost kind of like fox-like grin, which was brilliant, because then he turns out to be the nicest guy amongst the lot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which kind of, I was like, oh shit. But yes, it's a suit of armour for a rat. So,
Of course,
and it's
yeah.
like, hang on.
again,
Which is
as you
interesting
said,
because they know about things like electricity,
yeah.
but they still have swords and suits of armour.
Because it also looks like he's wearing a tunic, doesn't it? So it does
I
look very kind of
suppose-
LA.
If you think about it, it's not so much about their intelligence; it's about what they're physically capable of creating.
Yes.
And I suppose at that stage, even with electricity, the best you could get is an arc welder making a suit of armour
Yeah.
at
That makes sense.
at the most advanced
Yeah.
level, with not because of their intelligence, because of the level of technology they have access to.
So that might then inform part of what you were saying earlier. One of the things that you touched on was Mrs. Bridgely's ability to understand the farmer when he's on the phone.
So that's the thing, that maybe they've advanced to the stage that they can understand audio. They can hear, if they hear it,
No.
they'll understand it. But they,
I
if
just
it was
remembered something.
if it was in a note, she wouldn't be able to read it.
Just remembered something. I know it's in a scene that's coming up shortly.
Okay.
It's in the scene with Nicodemus, but it's revealed that Mrs. Brisby can read.
Yes, because she reads from his
And
book.
she says, "I'm not as good as my children." And maybe that reflects her ability to understand humans. It's not just the written word, but the spoken word, that her husband taught it to her.
Yes. Yes. That makes sense.
That would explain why Miss Brisby was able to understand the phone conversation.
And also read the language.
And yet the other animals are still ignorant of human
Yes.
activity.
But her children can, because they've inherited it from their father.
Of course, they've been taught as well, so
Yes.
doubly so.
Brilliant, I like it. And again, we've kind of dotted that I here already by making Hazel and Fiver the children of the rabbit that escaped from NIMH.
Yes, absolutely. So,
So,
we
yes.
know they can read. We know,
Yes.
they can understand humans.
Perfect. So, into the courtroom scene. Obviously, a lot quicker. Jenna is going to notice there's somebody there that shouldn't be.
Oh yes, it's going to be a very obvious moment of
It is going to be the
huge outrage. Huge. I mean, this huge.
It is going to be the kind of silence.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, you know, as prospective filmmakers, what we would do is we would cut to the courtroom scene before they arrive, 30 or seconds or a minute earlier,
Yes.
to establish that scene more thoroughly,
Yes.
so that when they arrive and they're suddenly silent, it
All
doesn't
of that-
take away from the conversation that
all
we
of that.
learned.
All that conversation has already transpassed.
Yeah,
And because
so we
of
learn
the-
about the rats by
Yes.
hearing their debate.
And also,
Also, we can also cheek at that because of the volume of Jenna's delivery. They can hear it from the hallway outside.
Absolutely.
so they
yes.
are aware of the.
So I think that's in the movie as well. I do think they hear it echoing.
Yeah.
It's just in the film, it's a short
Yes.
piece of tunnel. If you make it a longer piece of tunnel,
They'll hear more of it as they get there. Yes, exactly. Which again is another nice point for the animators to do. The sound of his voice echoing down the corridor as they're heading towards it, things like that.
I always love effects like that.
Yeah. And again, that scene will play out as normal. Some intimidation. Obviously, there'll be a little more intimidation on their half, and also just how Jenna will feed the internet, because it's not just we're not just worrying about ourselves now. Well, look at there's him.
Yes.
we have to worry about him now. He's got in here, something of his size. What else can get in here? How is he going to twist that moment?
Oh, Jenna would be a lot more threatened by that.
Yeah.
It's not a small mouse sneaking in through a crack.
Exactly.
It's a bloody great big rabbit sitting in the middle of our debating room.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He would be much more outraged.
And especially when and
he was already a bit of a bigot to begin with.
Yeah.
And even more so because it's like, well, you want us to go out to the woods? There's more things like him out there than there are here, and he's just got in our bush.
Mm.
So it's more fuel for him. Definitely.
So the argument / debate about what should be done would be more heated.
Yes.
Because he would be so much more outraged,
Mm-hmm.
and people would be responding to his comments more. It would go on a little bit longer.
Yeah.
A little bit. Maybe 30 seconds, a minute longer.
To the point where they kind of cut off and say, you better take him to Nicodemus.
Yeah. Which is more or less what they do in the scene anyway. It's
pretty much, yeah.
They go, oh, we should probably help this woman. We'll talk about it. You go away and talk to the other old men.
Yes.
So that still works as a scene ending. You can end it when you need to because of that.
Yes.
You know, it's up to you as the filmmaker / writer to decide how much of the dialogue you want to continue to before you move to the next
But
scene.
again, you can do the same thing there as well. When they leave, you can have some of that going on in the background, fading out, and then replaced with the conversation between Mr. Aegis and Fiver as they go to see Nicodemus.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, no, that all makes sense.
Which again, the scene with Nicodemus will play out pretty much the same.
Yes. This is a thing I want to come back. I know we kind of talked about it earlier on, but how much do we want to anthropomorphize our characters? Because Miss Brisby is very capable of wearing a cloak as well as a necklace. And you know what? In the Shapes of a Mouse Body, that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. I don't know. No, actually, no. It would kind of tuck behind ears, wouldn't it?
Well, I would say in that case, then we would have that.
I'm just trying to think how it would stay on.
In that case, then I would have to say it would be a collar.
God, yes.
Collar with the gem in the middle.
Yes, of course. Yes, that would solve that problem entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Problem solved. Yeah, great.
Which I must say I'm very proud of. I just thought of in this instance.
And then he goes to read the book, and again, but again, he can even make a comment that way. I learned how to read from my mother.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then again, that scene, so that all plays out, and then we get to see the secret of NIMH, which is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
So again, instead of it was 20 rats and 12 mice. 11 mice, thank you. And
a strange number. That's why I remember it.
I know. Yeah.
Why? You know.
Especially when
I'm not going to say. I have known things about how science and animal testing works, and that's not how it works.
Okay.
You don't have random numbers of animals injected. You have 50 of everything, or 100 of everything.
You have to do your control, and then you actually
it always struck me as an odd number. Was it like 30? No, it was 20 something of them, and
it was 20 rats and 11 mice.
11 mice, exactly.
And all but 2 of the mice get flushed down the drain, don't they? Or
they got blown away down the thing.
Which makes me think then is that the sequel to the book.
Roscoe and the Rats of NIMH, could that possibly
He does say presumably to their deaths.
Yes.
And they never checked.
No, so it could be that Roscoe and the Rats of NIMH is about one of the mice that got away.
We'll have to find out one of these days. We'll have to get hold of a copy.
Yeah. In this case,
I am genuinely curious now. I do want to know.
I do. I would like to revisit it and give it a look.
Yeah.
But in our case, it would be 20 rats, 10 mice, and a rabbit.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, a rabbit. Yeah, of course. Yes, because mother. Yes.
Yes. And they all rode out on the back of it. So that works.
So I suppose instead of having the mouse squeeze outside and unscrew the grate, I know I said rabbits have chewing power. Their chewing power isn't that great. Rats are better at it.
Yes.
They're bigger.
Yeah.
You know what they can do?
Do more at a time.
Do it a bit.
Or just jump straight through. Yeah.
Just ram it.
Yeah.
Maybe the
rats
screws were rusty,
or
you could add all sorts of narrative little ticks to
Or
explain why a rabbit would be able to ram out a grate.
It could be that the rats gnawed it enough to weaken it enough for her to punch through it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, because they were short.
Something
because
like
they were
that.
short on time
But-
or something to
But
get
since
out.
we're obviously acknowledging the rabbit's huge size in comparison to the mice and
Yes.
rats,
They were,
maybe we should make that part of the origin.
and that was part of the change that happened to them. They became stronger, or she became stronger.
They all
enough to be
became larger and more articulate. Didn't
Yes,
they?
exactly. Yeah. So she was big enough to punch through it, and that's why they hold her in such reverence.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but I mean, everything we're doing is a bit of a stretch.
It is.
So I don't think it's that much
No,
of a
that
sin.
works. I like it. So that again plays out as normal.
Yeah.
While this scene is going on, we could then get the cutaway to Jeremy, and again we'll have to say, because I mean I'm sure pneumonia would affect a rabbit slightly enough to a mouse, that he can at least come out slightly enough if you wanted those scenes in there. They're flannel,
Yeah.
but if you wanted a scene of Hazel slightly tormenting Jeremy while he's tied up in all the string, that
Yeah,
Or
exactly. Yeah, no,
There's another up in-
I think there are ways it could be managed. I do think there are ways it could be managed, yeah.
So we still get Hazel in there to a degree, even though he's not as much of a big deal as he is in the original film.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But again, so those work as they are. He gets the collar. Because again, there's another cut there, back to... No, because that's the point where he says, oh yeah, so that's the point where he offers to be... In the original film, she offers to go and deliver the sleeping draft. So in this one, he'll be offering to be the lookout.
Yes.
So what I'm thinking with that
Yeah.
is, as we know, one of the other rats, it could be Justin, it could be somebody else who goes to deliver it, or Mr. Ages. No, he can't because his leg's in the cast.
No,
That's the other thing as well. He's a mouse with a leg in a cast.
I know. Yes. yeah.
Where'd they get the plaster?
Where do we have to draw the line here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, it's brilliant. We love it. We're not trying to deconstruct it. It's
Think about it too hard, it all starts to crumble.
So I think in this case, so it'll be, say Justin's going to go and do it.
Yes. I think he's the perfect character, proves his bravery
Yes.
and everything that will eventually play out in the ending scenes.
Exactly.
It makes him stronger, because I did feel he was a little bit weak in the film.
Yes, compared to the book, because I remember I was talking to a friend of mine.
He was a little bit too comedy,
Yeah.
sort
Trying,
of underestimated character.
for some reason, I want to say.
It's like he was the
I want
captain
to
of
say
the guard,
Disney-
but he was always running around with a stick and all the other rats had swords.
Yeah,
Things like that.
yeah,
It was almost like they were gently mocking him, even though he was meant to be the hero of the story,
exactly.
or the hero of that part of the story.
Which is such a switch to the very end.
And something like this would make him, like, you can see his courage.
Exactly.
And again, this is a part of the story. I mean, there's the whole thing about the medallion reacting to people of courage.
Yeah.
And it's not just Fiver.
No, it's
It's others as well.
Yeah. It's not about one person having that gem and getting the power from it. It's about the power of courage to do things.
Yes,
To
and the
act,
gem
to fight, to move your world.
yes.
It's
And the
about
gem-
courage. The whole story's about
And the
courage.
gem reacts to that not just from the wearer.
Yeah.
So, which is nice as well, because when he gets to do it, you could get, even if they never refer to it, just a slight glow from the gem, which is the thing there for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is one brief shot in the original movie. He gets closer, or he holds onto it for a second, and it just starts to light
it
down.
does, yes. What I'm thinking is the way it works out how he kind of almost gets trapped by Dragon.
Mhm.
The only way that Fiver can lure him off is to run into the house.
Yes, but
It's a bigger target. The Dragon's going to go, oh, bigger target, I'm going to go for that.
Right.
He runs into the house.
Yeah.
Pounces
Yeah,
on him,
okay, right, yeah.
and the
get caught,
kid, and the
get
kid
caught.
sees him inside, and then they say, "Oh, can we keep the rabbit?"
Yeah.
So again, that all plays out.
yes,
That all plays out. We just need to check, obviously, who's doing the delivery, and what our new protagonist does to resolve the new
Yeah,
situation.
to save the situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Resolve the
again,
scene.
so you could try and dart off somewhere, but you can't. He's caught in, he's boxed in somewhere, and the only avenue is the doors. Maybe even the farmer's on his way out. He opens the door, and he Fiver sees an opening, goes for it. Dragon follows him, which means that Justin can do his thing.
Yeah.
They run into the house, jumps onto Fiver, and then the kid comes down the stairs, sees him, and oh, Mum, can we keep him?
yeah, that works. That works.
Yeah. Cool.
I can go along with that. We're
And
approaching
because-
the final hurdles here,
I know.
aren't we?
And because obviously Justin's outside, Fiver's inside, I can't do anything.
Yes.
Which leads to him walking away, much as he does
in
the original
in
scene.
the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that works. That works.
And then yes, because the next bit is there might be some other stuff with Jenna and the other guy. So what they're going to do? With
Yeah,
the
no,
house.
no, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Because although he got caught, Fiver has completed his task. The food has been drugged. Dragon
Yes.
will be asleep, and therefore we can go and move your house.
Move your house. Yes. So the next scene. Yes.
The logic of the narrative, it still works.
Yeah.
Because the next scene will be Fiver in the house,
Yes.
which is we're assuming is while they're doing the setup for the following scene, which is them trying to move.
Yes.
Hazel.
The Hazel and
Oh no, Fiver in the house whilst everybody else is moving the house
Yes.
with Hazel.
because they
They're sequential, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah, they're
So
going on at the
we can
same
only
time.
assume
they're
that
going on the
Because
same
that's
time.
when the phone call happens, and she realizes
Yes.
of course, in this
Realises-
case, he realizes that the rose bush and therefore their safety is about to be threatened.
So now
now we have to figure out.
How does he escape?
Yes. Well, I think for that, because it was a bit of a stretch that they had it looked more like a bird cage. that they
It
put
was a
her in.
birdcage.
Reasonably certain it was a bird-cage. It was meant to be a bird-cage.
and there's no
Most
evidence.
birds don't have the strength to move their water trays.
Yes, but
But a mouse would. Or what in that situation is
It
mouse.
seems so could rabbit.
Easily, and yes, I think
I mean,
bird-
in the simplest terms.
oh yeah,
The easiest answer to the solution is he escapes the same way Miss Frisbee does, but instead of pushing it a little bit, just shoves the entire thing out and squeezes through the tiny gap.
plus we have plus also
Because it would still be the same squeeze because of their differences in size.
you know also as well, which we've already established.
What?
Fiver has something that Mrs. Brisby doesn't. His mum was from NIMH.
Oh, the intelligence.
He has the intelligence to
Ah,
push,
yes.
push it out, reach up,
Yeah.
unlock it.
Oh, yes. Yes, because that would be a great callback to the story of Nim.
Yeah.
It would give a
Of how
foreshadowing
we-
aspect to that story,
Yes, of
which
how-
is missing.
No, it's not because that bit is we've already covered that bit.
No, I mean, in
Oh,
the
yes.
original film,
Yeah,
that is just a story. It doesn't foreshadow anything.
no,
But in this version,
It
it
does,
foreshadows
yes.
an event. Ding, 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 ding.
well done, mate. Well done. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, I like that. I like that very much.
So yes, bing, and he's out. And
Mm.
off he goes, and then we cut to them moving Hazel in the piece of pipe.
Yes, of course. And Jenna causes chaos.
Because he cares.
So we'll let that play out exactly the same.
And the death of Nicodemus, that
yes,
will
of
happen.
course. How unfortunate.
Sorry, Derek Jacoby. Back to your trainer.
He only no. If it wasn't for the narration, he'd only have like 2 scenes in the movie. But he
That's
actually
true,
has
yes.
quite a lot.
he does have quite a lot. Yes.
But yes, okay. So that's really simple. So instead of the block coming out of the, I'm imagining something like a cross section,
In some respects,
a
this
small
is
cross section of hose piping or something like that, or,
Yeah.
or water piping, and that would be being lifted out.
Yes,
It'd be
that works.
Relatively similar mass, but a slightly
And it's easy for
bigger
them.
area.
It's easy for them to put the ropes around to lift it up.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I was
definitely.
thinking.
Yeah, I like it. And it feels more like a warren. There's passages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Obviously, they're not going to go into the lee of the stone, or they can't put it into the tree, can they? Into that gap in the tree where they put it.
No.
So they've obviously got something similar that they can drop it into, which again, that's up to the filmmakers to
Well, this is
travel
one-
back in time and things
This is
like
one
that.
of the.
I'm remembering from the book rather than the film, but their original idea was to move it into the lee of the stone because it was the simplest option they could think of.
yes,
But moving it to the tree was the best answer,
yeah,
but they couldn't think of a way to do it.
that's true.
And
Yes,
it wasn't until she used the amulet. So they were just trying to do what they knew they could do.
yes,
So they'd still be trying to move it to the lee of the stone, trying to get it out of the way of the tractor, because, tractors have to leave a bit of space around things. So again, there's a bit of...
Yeah, so they can drink in.
We will,
And again, and maybe they were even planning to sink it a bit lower so that,
yes, that would have been my other thing
Yeah.
to put it down further.
because that's the thing we always have
Like,
to remember as
properly
well.
set it.
Yeah, because
'Cause
rabbits can
I'm
live,
kind of
they live
imagining-
underground.
Because, I'm imagining, you get these laceworks of on farmers' fields of sprinkler systems,
yes,
and they're like a grid work. But they just sit like an inch or two off the ground.
Mhm.
And I've seen that in real life. Now, if one of those got broken, it would sink down a little bit, but bits of it would be stuck up above the ground. And that's kind of how I'm imagining what the situation is at the beginning. Whereas in an ideal universe, you'd want to sink it a couple of feet down.
And if it's already
And then you could build Warren. You'd
Yes.
have these very secure tunnels in the middle. It'd be a perfect home
And
Or
also,
rabbits.
because there's some underground where it possibly should be, the farmer's not going to look at it, so it's safe.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
okay.
also, nobody can burrow into the heart of your warren.
Exactly,
You
because
know,
if
so
you burrow down, then you
From
hit
a
plastic.
rabbit's perspective, it's very, very safe.
Absolutely, you burrow down, you hit plastic.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah. Okay, so that works. So they're doing that, and then that will happen. In some respects, it's worse for Nicodemus.
Yes,
He's got
because
the
there's-
pipework and a rabbit coming down on him.
yeah, so much more. Yeah.
And again, the next scene will play out the same way. Fiver turns up, tells them about what's happening. You have the fight, because again, the fight between Jenna and Justin, she doesn't have that much. Well, it does because of the amulet.
But only because of that.
Yeah.
But the actual fight is just between Justin and Jenna.
Yes.
It is entirely just.
And
between
that
those
works
two.
as well because of Fiver's.
So hang on,
because
we're
Fiver's so
kind of fast forwarding. So you've got the thing, and it falls down and it sinks.
That happens after Mrs. Frisbee gets back. Because the fight with Jenna happens first.
Does it?
Yes.
Oh, it does, because she arrives and then he gets distracted from Justin by the medallion.
Because that was one of the most traumatic things about that film. As a kid, you had that heightened drama with Jenna and Justin having the swashbuckling duel.
Yeah.
And you think this is the aftermath, this is the catharsis, and then the stone starts to sink.
Of course
There's
it does,
another
yes,
level
I have
of-
got it back,
yes.
right.
So the scene that so Fiver gets back, he sees the collar with the amulet,
Mhm.
flips his lid, fight happens, Jenna bites the farm, and then you get the moment, and then the whole thing starts to sink.
Yes.
And while, okay, and then the focus is not the fact that it's sinking, it's the fact that it's sinking, but the entranceways are exposed and the mud can get in there.
Yes,
And
exactly.
can't
It's
be
about
there.
the mud getting in and
Suffocating
Hazel.
Hazel.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That because that whole scene with the kids and their struggle to stay afloat,
Yeah.
highly anthropomorphized as it is, would be reflected in the same struggle to avoid
Yes.
the 3 or 4
Passageways
streams
that are
of
filling up with
muddy
mud and
ooze coming
slurry,
towards
yeah.
them, trying to find.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, and it works just as well because Hazel will be clawing away
And
at it.
because
Okay, his
it's-
bottom, he's not floating in it, but he's still trying to get the air pocket to try and survive.
And also, because the pipe's bigger than the thing,
Yeah.
it would take longer to come in, so it would be more about his retreat.
Yes, and he's not well as on top of that.
Yeah, so he can
Yeah.
barely move, and this stuff is oozing towards him, so he can barely move as fast as the stuff.
This is one of
A lot
those
more
ones where I'm
tension.
kind of almost going to say the tension in it is greater in our version than it is in the
It's-
original.
He cranked up a couple of notches, definitely, yeah.
And that it works even more because it fits in with the narrative of the story that they've come from. Without trying,
Without,
we've
without
applied certain physical laws that apply that create tension in Watership Down in this new version of Secret of NIMH.
yes, it would be a little bit more, just a tiny bit more real. Just a tiny bit.
You know, when we have to choose, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
But that's we've got
Yeah.
some way to go before we get to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
One moment.
Mhm.
Beer break.
beer break. Okay. At this moment, you could obviously ape our, I'm sure, heroes for both of us, and Monty Python and Holy Grail, and just have a thing come down and just say intermission. Sorry.
Sorry, Chris. This is all editing trouble for you. Or whoever does this.
Sorry, Mr. Terry, I'm still waiting for your answer.
Oh,
It's alright, they can't see. Although we don't know about the one on the left. He has strange powers.
well, that helps. That really helps.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yes. Yes, I do. Oh, so much fun. Too much head. Never mind. Oh, dear. Dripping.
Your foamy head has dripped.
No, I wasn't going to say it. But yes. Yes, it has.
Please remember, this isn't made for children. Even though the films
I know.
that we were talking about might have been made for children, what we're doing here isn't.
No, this is definitely not happening for children.
We've got to the point where the cross-section of pipework is sinking into the slurry and the mud.
Of course, the desperate struggle to grab the rope,
Yes.
try and pull it back up.
That's even interesting as well, because we had the tension there because you've got Fiver as well to help them to try and pull it back up, and it starts to work. But he's as we know, he's a runt as a rabbit.
He's a run.
He's got those strong rabbit legs.
Yes.
But he's a runt. And this is now, I mean, I hate to come back into the science of this, but this is no longer a small brick
No.
that you're trying to lift out. It's a cross-section of water
Or
from the
pipe.
mud. And
That's filling up with all the extra weight from the mud itself.
Yeah,
So,
the tension. Yeah, it would. He would be stronger than them, but he would not, and it would create that same level of tension.
And so I can see how it plays out, especially with the visuals in the film itself.
Yeah,
That they're trying and they start to pull it back up. They start to put it, possibly even get to the point where they allow at least a little bit more air in to give Hazel a bit more time.
Yeah,
But it's not enough, and it sinks back down. And it's right in that last moment of desperation and despair that the gem starts to glow.
yeah.
And he realises
It would have to be. I mean, because
you could also insert a very interesting moment for children.
Because in the film,
it's like she gives up, doesn't she, almost? And
Yes.
then it lights up.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think for Fiver, it shouldn't be a moment of giving up. It would be the moment of losing, but not the moment of giving up. But it's the fact that he doesn't quit.
He loses that battle, but starts fighting a different one. It's almost, if you want to think about it, it's the turn off your targeting computer moment. He realises, as soon as the gem starts to glow, he realises what he's doing with his body isn't going to save the day, so he lets go.
Oh, right. Okay, yes.
And then, because we've already established, and from his original story, he has visions, he is more spiritual, and it's that moment where he steps into his spirituality completely
you realise
and allows that to save the day.
That sounds great. Although you do realise that as theoretical writers, that means we have to foreshadow this shit.
at some
But we
point.
have, because the fact that he has visions and they are proven to come true shows that he has a connection to a greater understanding of reality that nobody else has.
No, I do. No, sorry.
Sorry, okay, I missed
No,
that.
sorry,
Sorry,
no. You
cross
are
purposes.
right.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I mean that, like sort of earlier in the film, it would ideally be a thing between the two brothers, where sometimes you have to let go, you know, and it would be a thing. Maybe Fiver can't let go of his visions, and he allows them to haunt him, and
So
Hazel gives him to talk about letting go of things.
But that's, yeah, so in the scenes that would replace the ones with Mrs. Brisby and the children,
Yeah,
in those scenes between those as a brother,
yeah,
you can see Hazel panicking because of things that happen. Even if we have to insert a moment of kind of retroactive exposition where he's explaining to him what happened with getting his medicine here,
Yeah.
but it's also as he's explaining it, it's enough to make him feel nervous, and he's saying, "Calm down, calm down." Even though Hazel's the one who's ill, he's saying, "Calm down, just let go."
yeah.
And this is the moment where he realizes, because
So
the gem starting to glow it's kind of like the nod from God that you kind of feel that you need to do something
Yeah,
to make that, to achieve that epiphany.
I understand that, strictly speaking, like if you're talking especially for general audiences, you don't need this, but I have to admit I'm still viewing both of these as films essentially for children, and I'm thinking, well, we've made a point here. How do we make it? How do we reinforce that point? Normally, with that sort of thing, that's when you'd foreshadow. You'd put in an earlier moment so that when that moment occurs, it gives it relevance, gives it an educational knowledge to it. What I'm saying is, I'm agreeing entirely with what you're saying.
But you think there should be something earlier in the
yeah.
film?
Just a comment or a moment, just one. It doesn't need to be huge because kids are not.
Does it need to be something that he tries to do and fails at? Because he's not ready?
Well, like I said, my first instinct was to say that maybe Fiver is unable to let go of his visions and they haunt him too much.
Yeah.
Maybe Hazel gives him a speech about just letting it. Not necessarily literally saying with the words let it go, but sometimes you have to accept what is happening.
Okay. I'm trying to think where the only place that you could put
At
that
the very
in.
beginning.
The only place I could think where you could put that in is if you insert a scene between the owl and then going to the rosebush, where he's relating to what happened with the owl to Fiver, and about his own fear and trepidation in that situation. So much of that scene with the owl is led by the owl.
Yes.
He knows more. The only thing that he needs to know to solve his role in that, to fulfill his role in that film, is to know who this person is.
Yes, that makes sense. That does make sense. You're right. That's actually perfect. That is actually perfect. Because it fits thematically within the scope of the story. That's my one concern about doing things like that, is sometimes foreshadowing is so bloody obvious that it's almost not a part of the story.
But don't forget, we are talking about a time when foreshadowing was not such an established thing in film.
Well, certainly not in children's film.
In children's film, and if it was very well hidden.
Mm.
It wasn't so blatant.
Mm.
So, yes, we could put something there, but I think we can get away with it without. Because, again, the whole swashbuckling aspect of the rats doesn't really become prevalent, and you don't really pick up on it until the fight between Justin and Jenna.
Yeah.
So we could still just do it as it is.
Works.
Yeah.
It does still work.
We can afford to be ambiguous with it.
Yes, we can. Like I said, that's why I pointed out to you that I am thinking about it purely in terms of what it is as a children's film and how to make it most effective as a children's film. Yeah. It's not necessarily what we're trying to do here.
You have to think about the mentality of the people who are writing these.
Tangent alert.
Yes, slightly.
Yeah.
But yes, don't forget, we are still thinking about people who are writing children's films, like the people who created things at the same time as other people were creating things like the Magic Roundabout and things like that. So
yes.
Their focus was very different to what somebody creating a children's film today would be.
That's true. That is very true.
We've got to that point, and then the amulet thing happens, and
we get the force.
Yes. The visuals, those are the visuals that I really want to see in 4K or in Blu-ray, because they would be fantastic if the print was cleaned up. The rest of it I love because it has the throwback feel to it.
Yeah.
But there are some lovely visuals there that I think I would like to see those in 4K. They would look pretty spectacular.
They were pretty damn sweet to begin with, but yes, I do understand what you're saying.
And that's pretty much the end of the film.
It is, isn't it?
All we hear is, which is a shame because it was
because they made aftermath, isn't it? It's
because they made such a point of the fact that NIMH is coming, but you never see it because they've been forewarned, and it actually
no, that is the end of the film
because there's the voiceover about what happened.
Yes,
but the visual is the trucks turning up the next day to take away the rosebud,
and nothing, and they don't find anything.
They don't find anything
because they've all gone, and then we just see them, and obviously it's Jimmy in the window or Tommy in the window going, "Oh, I can't get out."
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And we know that they live happily ever after.
That's right, yeah. That's all they really do tell.
Which is one thing which we will come on to when we come to Watership Down that I did notice, which I'd forgotten about when I rewatched it for this.
Mm.
Have I given something away there? We do rewatch everything. If you hadn't realised that, then...
If you think we don't watch these movies, you must be crazy.
Exactly. Is they both end very abruptly.
They do. With narrative fast forwards,
and which is fine, and I like it. And with this one, it's fun. It wraps up quite nicely.
It does. It's pretty neat, nice little bow.
Although I think with this one, I think we should have Hazel's back outside and getting some air.
Of course,
because we haven't got the interplay with the other children. This is something. Did you notice it? And it happens both times.
Both times what?
So obviously the end of the thing, and you got Jeremy turns up, and Jeremy's mate turns up, and they meet and all that kind of thing, and they all get tangled up in the thing.
Yeah.
Now in the scene earlier when Jeremy's tied up in all the string.
Yeah.
And not Martin, but the younger child.
Yeah.
Who's still in nappies.
Yeah.
Refers to him as a turkey.
That's right. Yeah, keeps calling him a turkey.
And then when the female crow turns up, he says, "Oh, there's another turkey turns up." In both of those occasions, one thing happens, and it's very slight. But if you look for it, it's there.
Okay, go on.
As soon as the mouse refers to the bird as a turkey, licks his lips.
I did not notice that.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's so evil.
I know. And it's just like, what? I wasn't sure how to rewind it. Yes, it does. And then when it happens at the end, oh my god, yeah.
Oh, no, I did not notice that at all. I had no idea. Oh dear, that's there's suddenly there's a Blumhouse version of this movie that we should talk about sometime when we're really, really drunk.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I just noticed that and I was like, what now? And you did it again? Is this the Hannibal Lecter of the mouse community or what?
This is the whole movie is about befriending a crow so you can eat it alive.
But yes, the film ends and everybody lives happily ever after. The rats have gone off to their new homes.
That's Thorn Valley, yeah.
Yes. And they're safe and they're where they're not going to be caught ever by the farmer when they plough. It works. And again, I think a lovely...
It does work.
It
adds some extra moments of comedy.
There's some more tension in there than there was before. It's brilliant.
Exactly, yeah. It presses certain buttons that the original film doesn't.
I mean, it reverses the dynamic because she's so small and he's so big.
Yes.
But the story still works very much.
I like it.
I do. I do too.
Brilliant. So, that's one. We need to see if we can do the other side as well. So, please do come back and join us, hopefully next week, if we can get everything edited on time, to see how Mrs. Brisby and her family fare in Watership Down. And when, hopefully, I can imagine more than once, with all the love and best will in the world, we will be telling you, piss off!
Oh, one thing.
Yes.
As always, folks, please like, subscribe, and share.
Or luscious ripe, as we established last week, which I think we still established we think is a type of fruit. We have no idea what it looks like or how it tastes.
Like a pineapple crossed with strawberries. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Can I make wine out of it?
I'm sure you could try.
And we're out.
Ba 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 ba.